Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Welcome back to Classroom, everybody. This is our last gathering for the month. Next week, we're getting the week off for home groups, all right? How many of you have been keeping up with the Torah portions? How many of you have fallen behind a little bit? Okay, a week or two, a week or so, yeah. I apologize for sending it out like right on Shabbat. I should probably get it out a little sooner. I want to get it out at least before Friday, or on Friday, so you guys have time to go through it. Our study today is entitled Pride Eyes. Pride Eyes. I know in the past we talked about June being Pride Month. All right. We're not talking about that sort of pride today. A little bit, it kind of relates a little bit, but being wise in our own eyes, pride eyes. Our Torah portion this week is found in Numbers chapter 16 through 18. All right. If you haven't read through the portion, I encourage you to get through the portion after class, the rest of the day. All right, with the Haftarah and the Brit Hadashah portions, it really helps us understand the relevance of what's written there in the book of Numbers. All right, there's a lot going on there, and we're going to be going through one chapter in our study today. One verse I want you to hang on to as we get through this study is Proverbs chapter 3, verse 7 to 8. It says, "Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord, fear Yehovah, and turn away from evil. It will be healing to your body and refreshment to your bones." So if not being wise in our own eyes and turning away from evil is healing for our body and refreshment to our bones, imagine what it is if you are wise in your own eyes and you don't turn away from evil. All right? Sickness, crustiness, no refreshment. So here we are in Numbers. We're getting into chapter 16 today. But where exactly are we in the story? Here's some context. This is in year 2 of their travels after they left Egypt. This is the second year. And in about the 4th to 5th month, that's when the camp, they arrive at Kadesh Barnea, and Moshe sent the 12 spies to scout out the land in Canaan. Remember that? Yeah. Okay, so that was where we are, that timestamp. After the 4th and 5th month, the nation, they get this demoralizing report from the 12 spies, and the nation panics and they rebel. And this prompts God to sentence them to 40 years of wandering until the older generation dies out. That was the purpose, for that older generation to die out before entering into the promised land. In Numbers 15, at the end of Numbers 15, it's interesting. You have that rebellion. They didn't enter in the land like they were supposed to, and now they're suffering this consequence. But Yehovah gave them an instruction at the end of Numbers 15, where he instructs Israel to make and wear tzitziot, okay, the tassels, and hang them from their garments. It's interesting that it's just kind of placed there in the middle of the story. Why this instruction at that point, okay? Immediately following that instruction, that's where we get into Numbers chapter 16, okay? They're stranded in the wilderness and they're facing a lifetime of wandering, 40 years. A massive leadership vacuum and deep resentment is boiling over. Korah, Dathan, and Abiram seized on this anger to launch their coup, okay, their rebellious coup. We're going to be looking at the story here in Numbers 16 of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. But before we do, let's just look at that passage at the end of Numbers 15, 37 to 41. Yehovah said to Moshe, "Speak to the people of Israel, instructing them to make through all their generations tzitziot on the corners of their garments, and to put with the tzitzit on each corner a blue thread. It is to be a tzitzit for you to look at, and thereby remember all of Yehovah's mitzvot and obey them, so that you won't go around wherever your own heart and eyes lead you to prostitute yourselves. But it will help you remember and obey all my mitzvot and be holy for your God. I am Yehovah your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt in order to be your God. I am Jehovah your God. Okay, so we see this pattern that written again, where you see, remember all of Jehovah's mitzvot and obey. Remember and obey all my mitzvot. You have it on both sides of this one line. Why is it important that they remember and obey Jehovah's mitzvot, his commands? So that you won't go around wherever your own heart and eyes lead you to prostitute yourselves. You don't go around whoring. Whoring and adultery. You understand? Adultery and unfaithfulness. You get the picture here. When we are not following Jehovah's, if we don't remember his mitzvot, it would be easier for us to get sidetracked and we end up whoring against Jehovah. But you see, you have those two lines there echoing each other, and in the middle, you have the so that. It's an important way of writing, a literary writing tool to help bring attention to what's written in the middle. Okay? Just like at the end, it says, I am Jehovah your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt in order to be your God. I am Jehovah your God. You see that pattern there again. He wants to bring emphasis. And he's not just saying, I'm Jehovah, so listen to me. He's reminding them of who Jehovah is by what he did. Brought them out of the land of Egypt in order to be their God. Do you see that linguistic pattern that's happening, that literary pattern, rather, in the Hebrew writing? When you go through the scriptures, especially in the Torah, we're going to come across a lot of these devices, okay, these literary devices, and it'll help us pay more attention to the point that they want to bring out in the writing. So the point of tzitzit is not just to remember what his commands are, remember and obey them. Why? So that I don't whore against God. Nowadays, people wear wedding bands, right? If they still fit. My wife and I, our bands don't fit anymore. But for the longest time, I wore that wedding band for the longest time until my finger was about to start swelling and I couldn't take it on and off anymore. So, but that wedding band, it's kind of, it's a tool in a way that tells other people, yo, you know what, I'm taken, leave me alone, all right? Back when my wife and I were younger and hot and better looking and stuff, yeah? People would look at us now, they don't have to look anymore, we're just like, it's okay. But the wedding bands helped. It was like a deterrent for other people, which took away some of the temptation that we might have experienced, all right? But a reminder to keep us faithful to one another, all right? The tzitzit is kind of like a wedding band. It's a reminder so you don't go whoring and be unfaithful to Jehovah. Understand? Okay. Before we get into number 16, we're looking here at the tribe of Levi. Remember the tribe of Levi, out of the 12 tribes, they were given land, all right? They were a set-apart tribe to Jehovah for his tabernacle service, his temple service, okay? Out of the tribe of Levi, you have Moshe, who was the mediator. You have Aharon, the priest, and Moshe's prophet, okay? From Aharon's line is the high priest and all the ordinary priests. In order to be a priest for Israel, you needed to come from the biological line of Aharon. Not for Moses' line, even though they're brothers. It's specifically his descendants that were allowed to be the priests serving. All the other Levites also served in the tabernacle. They were also there, but not priests. And they were authorized to be priests. But they were the assistants in the tabernacle, the musicians, the guards, the laborers. They're the ones that would pack up the tabernacle and carry all the pieces at different places. Some of them were in charge of just collecting the poles. Others were in charge of carrying the furniture, the furnishings. All right, and it was very specific. Jehovah said, if you're from this line, this is what you do. If you're from this line, this is what you do. Okay, So that's the way that the tribe of Levi kind of worked. Now bear with me, we're reading through the entire chapter of Numbers 16. All right, in the CJB, chapter 16 gets divided, where chapter 17 picks up. You'll see it when you study. Here we go. Now Korach, the son of Yitzhar, the son of Kohat, the son of Levi, along with Datan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, and On, the son of Pelet, descendants of Reuben, took men and rebelled against Moshe. Siding with them were 250 men of Israel, leaders of the community, key members of council, men of reputation. They assembled themselves against Moshe and Aaron and said to them, "You take too much on yourselves. After all, the entire community is holy, every one of them, and Jehovah is among them. So why do you lift yourselves up above Jehovah's assembly?" When Moshe heard this, he fell on his face. Then he said to Korach and his whole group, "In the morning Jehovah will show who are his and who is the holy person he will allow to approach him. Yes, he will bring whomever he chooses near to himself. Do this, take censers, Korach and all your group, put fire in them, and put incense in them before Jehovah tomorrow. The one whom Jehovah chooses will be the one who is holy. It is you, you sons of Levi, who are taking too much on yourselves." Then Moshe said to Korach, "Listen here, you sons of Levi. Is it for you a mere trifle that the God of Israel has separated you from the community of Israel to bring you close to himself, so that you can do the work in the tabernacle of Jehovah and stand before the community serving them? He has brought you close, and all your brothers, the sons of Levi, with you. Now you want the office of Cohen too, priest? That's why you and your group have gathered together against Jehovah. After all, what is Aharon that you complain against him?" Then Moshe sent to summon Datan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab. But they replied, "We won't come up. Is it such a mere trifle, bringing us up from a land flowing with milk and honey, to kill us in the desert, that now you arrogate yourselves the role of dictator over us? But you haven't at all brought us into the land flowing with milk and honey, and you haven't put us in possession of fields and vineyards. Do you think you can gouge out these men's eyes and blind them? We won't come up." So you have that, we won't come up, we won't come up. Why? Because you took us out of the land flowing with milk and honey, and you have not brought us to the land flowing with milk and honey. Pay attention to that. Moshe was very angry and said to Jehovah, "Don't accept their grain offering. I haven't taken one donkey from them. I've done nothing wrong to any of them." Moshe said to Korah, "You and your group, be there before Jehovah tomorrow. You, they, and Aaron. Each of you take his fire pan and put incense in it. Every one of you, bring before Jehovah his fire pan, 250 fire pans, you too, and Aharon, each one his fire pan." Each man took his fire pan, put fire in it, laid incense on it, and stood at the entrance to the tent of meeting with Moshe and Aaron. Korach assembled all the group who were against them at the entrance to the tent of meeting. Then the glory of Jehovah appeared to the whole assembly. Jehovah said to Moshe and Aaron, "Separate yourselves from this assembly. I'm going to destroy them right now." They fell on their faces and said, "Oh God, God of the spirits of all humankind, if one person sins, are you going to be angry with the entire assembly?" Jehovah answered Moshe, "Tell the assembly to move away from the homes of Korah, Datan, and Abiram." Moshe got up and went to Datan and Abiram, and the leaders of Israel followed him. There he said to the assembly, "Leave the tents of these wicked men. Don't touch anything that belongs to them, or you may be swept away in all their sins." So they moved away from all around the area where Korah, Datan, and Abiram lived. Then Datan and Abiram came out and stood at the entrance to their tents with their wives, sons, and little ones. Moshe said, "Here's how you will know that Jehovah has sent me to do all these things, and that I haven't done them out of my own ambition. If these men die a natural death like other people, only sharing the fate common to all humanity, then Jehovah has not sent me. But if Jehovah does something new, If the ground opens up and swallows them with everything they own, and they go down alive to Sheol, then you will understand that these men have had contempt for Yehovah. The moment he finished speaking, the ground under them split apart. The earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up with their household, all the people who had sided with Korah and everything they owned. So they and everything they owned went down alive into Sheol. The earth closed over them, and their existence in the community ceased. All Israel around them fled at their shrieks, shouting, "The earth might swallow us too!" Then fire came out from Yehovah and destroyed the 250 men who had offered the incense. Chapter 17, verse 1 in the CJB. Yehovah said to Moshe, "Tell Eleazar, the son of Aaron, the Kohen, to remove the fire pans from the fire, and scatter the smoldering coals at a distance, because they have become holy. Also the fire pans of these men, whose sin cost them their lives, have become holy, because they were offered before Yehovah. Therefore, have them hammered into plates to cover the altar. This will be a sign for the people of Israel." Eleazar the Kohen took the brass fire pans, which the men who had burned to death had offered, and they hammered them into the covering for the altar, to remind the people of Israel that an ordinary person, not descended from Aaron, is not to approach and burn incense before Yehovah, if he wants to avoid the fate of Korah and his group, as Yehovah had said to him through Moshe. But the very next day, the whole community of people of Israel complained against Moshe and Aaron. "You have killed Yehovah's people." However, as the community was assembling against Moshe and Aaron, they looked in the direction of the tent of meeting, and saw the cloud cover it, and the glory of Yehovah appear. Moshe and Aaron came to the front of the tent of meeting. Yehovah said to Moshe, "Get away from this assembly, and I will destroy them at once." But they fell on their faces. Moshe said to Aaron, "Take your fire pan, put fire from the altar in it, lay incense on it, and hurry with it to the assembly, because anger has gone out from Yehovah, and the plague has already begun." Aaron took it, as Moshe had said, and ran into the middle of the assembly. There the plague had already begun among the people. But he added the incense and made atonement for the people. He stood between the dead and the living, and the plague was stopped. Those dying from the plague numbered 14,700, besides those who died in the Korah incident. 14,700 people died from this plague. Why? Because they complained against Moshe and Aaron. They weren't trusting God's commands and his word. They didn't learn from the incident of Korah and Dathan and Abiram.
The day before.
They were still rebellious. The day before. You know, it was still fresh. And sometimes our emotions get the best of us and we're very reactionary. And we just come in with our reactions and we're not checking our heart before we open our mouth. From the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. These people were condemning Moshe and Aaron, although it was Yehovah that acted and killed. But of course, people thought Moshe and Aaron were just maybe manipulating this God of theirs. Just as all the pagans were able to manipulate their gods with greater offerings and more precious things. That was their understanding of how they related with God. So we can't blame this generation for not understanding how to relate to Yehovah. But Yehovah was teaching them these lessons and making it very clear. He spared the whole assembly. It was only those that were following Korah that suffered the death that day. The 250 leaders and all their families. Whew. Any questions about this reading up to this point?
So that 250 men was just the men. It doesn't count the wives and
The
children.
250 men were the ones that went in with their fire pans. Okay, the judgment that fell on them was it was the religious disobedience, the way that God instructed how he is to be worshipped, and only Aaron's sons were accepted to come in with fire pans and offer incense. Remember, those are the priests.
That count is just the men. That's not-
Just the men. That's not even the families.
So we don't even, that number is larger.
So those 250 men died instantly with a holy fire that came, a supernatural holy fire came upon them as they presented the incense before God. Do you remember another time where there were two men that offered incense? Strange fire?
Yes, I remember.
Sons of Aaron.
The sons of Aaron, Nadab and Abihu. They were authorized to go in, but they didn't take the coal from the right fire, from the altar of sacrifice, right? So they brought strange fire before Jehovah, and for that they were killed instantly on the spot because they didn't follow God's way. They would have adulterated Jehovah's holiness, compromised His holiness, and that's why they died on the spot. Yeah.
So when I was reading this story as well, it's kind of like the bright and morning star, the right hand of God. But he had that pride. He wanted.
You're running ahead of me. Yeah, we're getting there. But yes, thank you for sharing. You're right there. That's spirit, man. That's spirit leading us.
That pride and,
Yeah, I want to explore a little bit more and look at the stories of people, characters, so that we get a better understanding of how that relates more directly. Thank you. Sorry to cut you off. I didn't want to do it. Let's look at the camp layout, all right, of the Israelite camp around the tabernacle. There's the tabernacle. Moshe and the priests were here. The rest of the Levites surrounded the tabernacle, all right, on the north side, the west side, and the south side. Moshe and the priests were on the east side. That's the entrance to the tabernacle was from the east. Okay. Korach was from the tribe of Levi, specifically a Kohathite. Okay. The tribe of Reuben, Datan and Abiram were from the tribe of Reuben. Okay. So they were neighbors here in the south. They were already dwelling here as they built this whole thing. They were dwelling together and they're like, listen, we have just as much right to be serving. Who do these guys think they are? We should be able to do what they're doing from the south side. Why the tribe of Reuben? This is the camp of Reuben because they were specifically from the line of Reuben, the royal elite. Why is it the royal elite? Who was the firstborn son of Israel? Reuben. Of course, got passed over. He lost his right. But while they were in Egypt, they still understood, we're from the firstborn tribe. Right? That was their understanding. It didn't matter that they got passed over, but they felt a right to be closer and higher, elevated somehow. Then you have the tribal elite, the Kohathites, right? The Kohathites were a larger tribe than the other Levites, right? They were greater in number, they were closer. Who else was from the tribe of Kohath? Anybody know? So these are the three sons of Levi, Merari, Gershon, and Kohath. Okay? Moshe and Aharon were also from the tribe of Levi. So which one did they belong to? They were Kohathites as well. Their dad was Amram. Sons of Amram. Okay, Korah was from Yitzhar. So these are brothers. First cousins. In line. It's like, what? Hold on, we all descend from Levi, right? But even more than that, they all were from Kohath, right? So these were the Levite rebels. Moshe and Aharon were the leaders of Israel. Datan and Abiram, they were both Reubenite rebels. So they were second cousins, so to speak. And that's why Korah felt like, hold on, I'm so close. I have every right. I'm a Levite, and Jehovah, He's separated us already, so why am I not closer? Why can't I be doing more? I can do what Moshe is doing. Okay. So Korach, and this is where Liza was starting to speak it up. Korach was the rebel on earth, and we read this story, right? He was a Levite who became jealous of Moshe and Aharon. He led a rebellion of 250 Israelite leaders, not just a random 250 men that agreed with him, the leaders of the assembly, okay? Demanding the same priestly authority, because we're all holy, so why shouldn't we all get the same sort of right to that responsibility? The judgment. In a dramatic display of divine judgment, the earth split open and swallowed Korach, his followers, and their households alive, while fire from the Lord consumed the 250 rebellious leaders. So you have the civil disobedience. Was anybody associated with them? Those were the ones swallowed up by the earth. And then the religious disobedience, very directly in the temple, that would compromise the 250 leaders. And there's a spiritual connection here. The New Testament warns against the way of Cain and the rebellion of Korah. You read that in Jude 1, verse 11. It's a cautionary example of challenging God's established order. God's established order. This is what's important here. Okay? It's funny, we said this is Pride Month, right? God's established order when He created mankind in His image. Male and female, He created them, all right? Together, the male and female. And what come to bring us the Echad picture of Jehovah, all right? That's His established order. Also, the way that we are to relate to one another. Male and female, husband and wife, different roles, but working together, all right, for a common purpose and a common good. The established order. The man is responsible. He's the covering for the woman, all right? He's responsible for everything that happens in his family. That's why Korah, Dathan, and Abiram, it wasn't just them that got punished. Their children, their wives, everybody, they were all swallowed up by the earth. Why? Because of headship. They were answerable for what would happen to their families. Okay? Oh, interesting thing. Korah had some sons that didn't align with him. They decided not to join their father. They knew that he was doing a wrong thing against Jehovah. And actually, a lot of them ended up writing the Psalms.
Oh.
So when you see Psalms written by other people aside from David, these were the sons of Korah. A remnant of the people. Isn't that cool?
Yes.
All right, so you're starting to understand why the genealogies and all that's pretty interesting? Oh yeah, hey. Imagine the sons of Korah singing about God's faithfulness, singing about the journey, all right? And they were there to witness the journey of how Jehovah treated the people, how He showed that He was impartial, right? There was no favoritism, all right? But He had order, and He maintained that, and He is fair and just and good.
So it's also, we have a choice to break the generational.
Yeah, absolutely. Where you align, what you align with, absolutely. Yeah. Lucifer, and this is I think where you were going, the rebel in heaven. So you have Korach, the rebel on earth, Lucifer, the rebel in heaven. The story, the name Lucifer, or morning star, originates in Isaiah 14:12, and it's historically used to describe Hasatan's fall from heaven prior to the creation of humanity. All right? What was Lucifer's sin? His fall was rooted in absolute pride. He desired to exalt his throne above God's. We see that in Isaiah 14:12-14. Yeah, that's okay. Ezekiel 28 describes him as an anointed cherub who became corrupted by his own beauty and wealth. Okay? He was beautiful, he's second in position, he was right there, serving at the throne. He could come before God, a covering cherub, an anointed cherub. The cherubs were the one in closest proximity to Jehovah, all right, to the throne. So it kind of shows there's this connection. Both Korach and Lucifer were uniquely privileged. Korach had the high honor of serving in the tabernacle, while Lucifer had the highest status an angel could hold. Both threw away their positions out of bitter envy, believing they deserved more glory. Dissatisfied, entitled, wanting more. That's why when we see these attitudes in our children, you better snuff that out early. That's grace. To snuff out that entitled, bitter attitude. When you grow up bitter and envious and coveting, what a nasty person you become. It eats you up. And you will stop at nothing. You will be unapologetically living, pushing your weight around until you get what you feel you deserve. No matter how hard you work and you think, I deserve better than this. If you really think you could work to get everything that you need for yourself. Remember, Jehovah is the one that provides all your needs. But if what you want is greater than what God deems you should have, and you start to covet, that's why it's one of his 10 words. Don't covet. Oh, and don't commit adultery. When you covet, you become unfaithful when you start chasing after those things. You're not staying in your lane. You're not where God purposed you to be. You're turning left and right from the path that is put before you. Do you see that? Do you see how the 10 words are starting to come more alive? They're not just a bunch of commands that have nothing to do with each other. They're all glued together. Did you have something?
Just one, well, two things.
Yep.
Can I see the previous? That's not.
Okay.
And the second one's like, kind of just adds on. Like I came across this week. Some motivational speaker just saying. The thing is, not to take away from what you're saying. It's that the more you look at yourself, the more, you know what I mean, like self-absorbed.
Sure.
The more entitled, the selfishness, the ego, the pride, and all that stuff from that. But then when you, on this part, I've learned to, the less I think of myself and pray for others, think of others, help others out, having the desire to help others out.
Sure.
In whatever way, shape, or form without imposing myself. Yes, makes you feel good. Kind of helps you with your compass per se. And I think that's a step forward, and that's when you know when you're straight.
So you're shifting focus, right? Less of the self, and shifting the focus, right? Entitlement, dissatisfaction. You know these balls? They knock and they just keep knocking back and forth and keep swinging. And it's a vicious cycle. It just keeps swinging back and forth. Entitlement and dissatisfaction. Ultimately, these sort of attitudes lead to rebellion. Like that's it. There's no way to stop that cycle. It just keeps hammering, and it just keeps popping off that same way. And until there's something, all that it does is lead to rebellion. There is a way to stop it. There is a way to cut it out. I like what Billy Graham said. Sin is rebellion against God. And those attitudes of the heart, entitlement and dissatisfaction, rather than graciously receiving something from God and being grateful for it, all right? Sin is rebellion against God. What is sin? Missing the mark. Getting off focus. You have a mark and aim. It's an archery term. The mark, the bullseye. You want to keep your eyes set on that target. All right. Sin is missing the target. Yehovah's mitzvot, his commands, that's the target. He says, remember these things. Focus on these things. Think on these things. That's why we wear tzitzit. To remember and to obey. Remembering it, remember isn't just like, oh, recall to memory. Remember, Hebrew is a very active language. When you remember it, there's an evidence of that. It shows. You remember by obeying them, by doing the commands. Okay? And in that way, you align yourself with God. You're hitting the mark instead of missing the mark. Rebellion isn't like, oh, I'm going up against God. In order to do that, you just have to miss the mark. Your focus is somewhere else. You got wandering eyes, itching ears and wandering eyes, drawing your attention elsewhere, leading you to rebellion and adultery, whoring. Who here wants to be a whore? Nobody wants to be a whore. But who here is whoring? We got to be honest. We got to be honest with ourselves. Do I fall short? Yes, I still do. I know what the mark is, but I'm not making a life of going other places than keeping my eyes on that mark. Doesn't mean I'm going to hit the mark all the time. But I know that that's where the target is. I know that's where my eyes have to go. I have to keep returning to it, no matter how many times I might be missing it. But if I give up and I say, oh, this is too hard, I'm never going to hit that. It's not about perfection. It's just a matter of He gives us what we need to focus on. He gives us what we need to look at. Whether you hit it or not, that's His work. He's going to strengthen you. He's going to let you go through things. He's going to get your eyes focused back on that target. I got tired of missing the mark. I got tired of a life where I was not hitting the target. It wore me down. There was no health, there was no refreshment, there was no healing in my life. But once I got my eyes set back on Him and what He wants, seek first the kingdom of God and what He wants, man, healing and refreshment. I wasn't being wise in my own eyes. I was seeking His wisdom, keeping my eyes on His wisdom. Healing and refreshment. Strength, yes.
On that note of wise in our own eyes, I think we often forget as believers that His standard, His mark, is for believers.
Yep.
We often misapply it to those who don't even know Him and know what He's about, don't know His ways, and we judge others. Oh, look at those people, look at they don't know that.
To that standard that they don't even know.
It's a standard that they don't care for, they don't want it,
It's not for them.
it's not for them.
Yep.
And so we put ourselves against God because we're already speaking judgment where we have no right to speak judgment over people that don't even care for a God that we claim to follow.
Humble pride,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
That's a condition of our hearts that we have to look at because we do that all the time.
We look at the world and we say, at least I'm not as bad as those guys. But they're not believers.
They don't care.
And God's law isn't for them. Because they haven't chosen to align with God. But for those of us that claim to be followers,
It's like we're expecting them to follow the rules of baseball and they're not even in the baseball field.
Exactly.
yeah.
And then
Yeah. It's good. Yeah, God's law was given to Moshe, all right, to a redeemed people, the people that were redeemed from Egypt. He didn't give it to the Egyptians. He gave it to those that He redeemed. So the redeemed people, that's who God's law is good for. All right? That's what it's intended for. And He didn't give it to them before He redeemed them. They were already redeemed. So you don't keep God's law in order to be redeemed. You've already been saved. You've already been redeemed. Now you could obey His law. Now you are free from sin, so you could obey His law.
So, I'm stuck. So if we are claiming to be a believer, so is it right to say that there are certain expectations from us? Because I have this discussion last week with that it is for others they say it's not right to give an expectation. But if we are claiming to be a believer, I believe there's a certain expectation from us.
Sure.
It's not like we're giving expectation from others. Just like you said, you don't expect other people to follow what something that they don't believe or they don't claim to be.
Sure.
But if we claim ourselves to be, of course there are certain expectations from us. That's how I know that it what it meant to be you're being set apart.
Yeah.
Because if we will not put expectation to ourselves, then what's the difference does it make among the rest?
Yeah, well, that's really good. I think expectation, the way that you're saying, if you replace that word expectation, like you don't need to have any expectation, you don't put expectation on other people, that's lawlessness. That's operating without a law, operating without a standard, operating without any guidelines, right? So you're free to do whatever you want. Sure, you're free to do that because this doesn't apply to you. But if you acknowledge that you are forgiven, you've been redeemed, and you acknowledge Yeshua as having completed that work, then absolutely there are expectations. When Yeshua met people, right, and he was dealing with people, your sins are forgiven, go and sin no more. There's an expectation, all right? When his followers started following him and he's teaching them, all right, follow me, if you love me, obey my commands. So then now there's a relational aspect to what it is to live out those expectations, right? If you don't love God, don't follow him. If you don't care, then don't worry about it. Don't even listen to me talk anymore, you know? If you don't care about God's law, if you don't care about what his will is, you know, then this isn't for you. You're free to go, right?
And there are standards to those expectations.
Sure. Can you elaborate?
I thought it was self-explanatory.
But once again, just being clear, you cannot earn your salvation. I'm not teaching that. I'm not saying that you have to keep the law to be saved. You've been saved. Now you're free from sin to obey God's commands.
But how,
Yeah.
Ladies first.
but how about if they said like, okay, God is graceful and God doesn't love you.
Sure.
So he understands. So does it mean that the God doesn't expect anything from you because he accepts you for who you are? I mean,
He is also fair and just.
that's, sometimes that's the conception. I mean, okay, if I declare myself, I love God, I don't depressed, God is gracious to me, so he will understand even if I fall short. But, so that means there's no expectation. Like,
Well, if God sees you killing yourself because you keep choosing sin, and the wages of sin is death, and you keep choosing not to align with him and go your own way, wouldn't it be less loving of God to come and say, get away from that sinful stuff? That stuff's going to kill you. Stay with me. I have everything you need. Like, that's love. That's grace. That's mercy. Are there expectations? Once again, he loves you. He's made a way. Everything's been done. And he wants to free you from this death sentence so that you could start living, truly living, the way that he ordered things. To live out of that expectation, to live outside of that order, is rebellion.
Yeah, since God saved us already, and it's a gift, something that we do not earn.
Yeah.
Knowing that you're saved already, then we apply what Paul said in Philippians 2:12, to work out your salvation with fear and trembling. What does that mean? To follow Torah, or the Word of God.
Yeah.
And since we know that we are citizens of heaven, then we must be a good law-abiding citizen of that place.
Sure.
While on earth.
Abiding. I like that word abiding, right? Abiding in him, abiding in his will. Yes.
The other, like, I was reading through James a little while ago, and in James 2 it talks about faith without good deeds is dead, right? So, not to say that it's a works-based salvation, which is, because of course it's not, but because we accept that, you know, Yeshua died on the cross, forgave our sins, paid for it all, not to pay it back, but because we love God and everything, we want to do those good deeds, and we want to follow Yeshua as our role model, right? So if he's our perfect role model, and he's the one that we're always looking towards to emulate, follow his character, because we love him so much, of course those good deeds will just pour out of us, because our fruits will start to develop more, and we can emulate that, and I guess that kind of pours out of us. And there's I don't know if any of you guys know this, because this is like a Gen Z thing. So there's this like TikTok trend, like I've seen a couple times. It's like it's called like the Jesus love. So it's like people show like their old selves, and then like in Christ they're doing creation. So it shows them the way that they're living their previous lifestyle, and now it's like, oh, this is me. No, whatever. Some people may use it for like vain purposes, but I choose it to like view it as super
ironic.
Yeah, but I view it as super encouraging, because it's like you can see like this true transformation of
Sure.
people's hearts, people's spirits, right? And they're able to walk away from this life because of the goodness of what was done on the cross.
So there's an evidence of transformation.
Yeah. Right? So I think that's super important. And because that transformation is there, because our hearts are transformed in such a profound way, it's like, well, why would you not want to like pay that?
Sure.
Why would you not want to follow the law, obey, right? So,
It's a natural
Yeah.
response, right? That's faithfulness, right? And I think that's what I'm hearing when you're talking about. That's the faithfulness to God, right? All right, thanks everybody. That's great. King Saul's rebellion. Anybody remember King Saul? The first king of Israel. The people didn't just want prophets. They didn't want, they wanted kings. They didn't just want a priest. All right? They wanted a king, and God said, okay, here you go, here's your king. He anoints King Saul. But then we also see King Saul rise with his pride. All right? There was so much, God gave him so much success over his enemies. God protected his people Israel, and it was God supernaturally working things and ordering steps and handing the enemies, giving the enemies into his hand. All right? But there was an order of things that Saul violated. All right? The unlawful sacrifice at Gilgal, for example, we find that in 1 Samuel chapter 13. His prophet and priest at the time was Samuel. All right? Facing a massive Philistine army, Saul panicked as the prophet Samuel delayed his arrival. Instead of waiting for Samuel to perform the authorized religious sacrifice, Saul took it upon himself to offer the burnt offering. This act of usurping priestly duties directly violated God's commands. He didn't die on the spot like with the fire pants. All right? And God is faithful to his people. Saul was still trying to do the right thing. He knows what Samuel does. Well, Samuel does it. I can do it too. It's just a burnt offering. Let's get on with this fight already. We have a victory to get here, right? But it was direct violation of God's commands. And then another instance, 1 Samuel 15, the Amalekite spoil of war. God explicitly commanded Saul to utterly destroy the Amalekites and all of their possessions. Saul, however, spared their king Agag and kept the best of the livestock for himself and his troops. When Samuel asked Saul about why he didn't utterly destroy, why did he keep some of the spoils for himself? Saul is supposed to be the leader of Israel, right? He ends up blaming his soldiers. Oh, well, they took it. They took it. Oh, but they only kept it so that we could offer Jehovah good sacrifices. You see that? They thought that these are great livestock. This would be the perfect thing to sacrifice to Jehovah. It would please him. And that's where we get this famous verse in verses 22 to 23. Does Jehovah take as much pleasure in burnt offerings and sacrifices as in obeying what Jehovah says? Surely obeying is better than sacrifice, and heeding orders than the fat of rams. For rebellion is like the sin of sorcery, stubbornness like the crime of idolatry. Because you have rejected the word of Jehovah, he too has rejected you as king. Saul was Jehovah's anointed king of Israel. He had an anointing, a special position and purpose to serve there. But because of his pride and arrogance, and those were just a couple samples of Saul's pride growing, and his disobedience to God's commands, then we see how the kingship was stripped from him. Doesn't matter. You think, oh, I'm anointed by God, I'm loved by God, I could do no wrong. It seemed like you wanted to honor God still, right? It wasn't like he was saying, oh, forget God. He wasn't like going right up against him. He's like, well, God expects a burnt offering before we go into battle. But Samuel's not here, so somebody's got to do it. Let it be me. Why not? I'm the leader. Doesn't sound so bad, right?
The intention is
The intention's there.
But it's not done.
He doesn't want to violate God's command, but he does. All right?
So Kim, it's like operating on someone who's not a licensed doctor, right?
Some people do this. I guess you could look at it that way. I think the priestly duty is a little bit more elevated than, because that's God's authority, right?
Or because somebody's late, that's why.
Samuel was late. Oh, the doctor's late. Let me step in. Nurse Faith decides, oh, Dr. Hal's not here. Let me get started.
Can I just make a comment? It has to do with the bigger picture.
Sure.
A lot of Christians, who call themselves Christians in Christendom, have this idea that the God of the Israelites in the Old Testament is so much harsher than Yeshua of the New Testament. That's why,
Jesus.
that's why this Old Covenant and New Covenant, it got mixed up with it.
Yep.
You know, we have to accept, during this time we're talking about it, you violate his command, you make a mistake, let alone complain, you're dead. The earth opens up, you're swallowed. Fire comes down, you're burned. I think it has to be mentioned, we forget the fact that what Jehovah was doing to those people there was he was purifying them, he was molding them into the nation who would represent his perfect character to the world. Someone said that the laws and commands of the Torah are like the instructions of a nuclear reactor. You turn this dial 1 degree, the whole thing burns up. I think it was, just to me, it reflects his desire to be precise, to be right about molding these people to reflect his perfect character. When you fail, you don't represent me. If the ambassador says something that the president is against, he gets recalled out. You don't represent me.
Yep.
It's tough to go against.
You know what's awesome about all of this that you're talking about? Jehovah gave his instructions. He didn't leave it up to the people to figure out what they needed to do. He took out all the guesswork. He was very precise. And all you have to do was follow it. What's so hard about that? And if you don't follow it, It's not like, oh, punishment. It's like, you know what, you chose not to follow. So,
Because we're,
lots of hands, yes.
because we're guys, we throw out the instructions. Because we're guys, we throw out.
We're guys, we throw out the instructions, the manual.
Oh, but the instructions are in Yeshua now.
Oh, but the instructions are in
Instructions
Yeshua
are in
now?
Yeshua now, so we don't have to know all the instructions.
Yeah. What's the point of the instructions? Right?
There's a quote that a quote or a saying that I've come across during the Christian podcast, back and forth interview talk, that is it, death comes to not knowing. Basically, you have no knowledge of it, like especially the things that we're talking about now. If you don't know the instructions, right, you can't go, I'm sorry, Dad, I didn't know.
They were
But then-
destroyed for lack of knowledge.
Lack of
Yeah.
knowledge. And to add on to what Uncle Rolly was saying, and everyone else was saying, is that like, because when we feel guilt and shame because of something we've done wrong, we don't want accountability.
Yep.
When we've been given the standard, we've been given the expectations to those standards, and vice versa. But when we have to own up to it, it is hard, because we can dish out the pride, but then when we have to eat our pride, it is hard. And that's where we learn. The hardest pain is like, the hardest teacher, per se.
So you either humble yourself or be humbled.
Yeah.
You either humble yourself or be humiliated.
Yeah, like that. You want to learn the hard way, then you learn the hard way. And sometimes all it takes is just that. And the reason why I think that people are so, OT versus NT, Jesus versus old God, is that it's like, it's so harsh, given all of the things there. And I believe that it just came up to me because when Uncle Rody was expanding on it, that God already knew what they were doing inside. So it's like, nope, not having that.
Yep.
And like you said, purifying, filtering out,
Yep.
right, to his people. That's why every time we saw that, it's like, you are my people, da 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 da.
Yep.
So he's shaping them up to be. And it's the setting apart. And it looks harsh, but because the world is so different from the time then, even now, it looks harsh.
Thanks for that, yeah. All right, let's get through these. Isaiah 5, verses 20 to 23. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who change darkness into light and light into darkness, who change bitter into sweet and sweet into bitter. Woe to those seeing themselves as wise, esteeming themselves as clever. Is that wise in your own eyes? Woe to those who are heroes at drinking wine, men whose power goes to mixing strong drinks, who acquit the guilty for bribes but deny justice to the righteous. Woe. Woe, those are the warnings. Woe to them. Right? If they continue on in these ways. Being right in your own eyes, wise in your own eyes, doing what you please, changing the meanings of things so that it's more acceptable for you. Romans chapter 12. You guys know this verse, verses 1 to 2. Therefore, I urge you, brothers, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to God. This is your spiritual act of worship. Do not conform any longer to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. You've heard this verse, yes? Let's see it. Let's see what comes right after it. Okay? I love how we like to take just a couple verses and we hang on to it and make posters and bookmarks and everything. What comes right after it? Verses 3 to 8. For I am telling every single one of you through the grace that God has been given to me, not to have exaggerated ideas about your own importance. Instead, develop a sober estimate of yourself based on the standard which God has given to each of you, namely trust. For just as there are many parts that compose one body, but the parts don't all have the same function, so there are many of us, and in union with the Messiah, we comprise one body. with each of us belonging to the others. Don't think of yourself more highly than the others. But we have gifts that differ, and which are meant to be used according to the grace that has been given to us. If your gift is prophecy, use it to the extent of your trust. If it is serving, use it to serve. If you are a teacher, use your gift in teaching. If you are a counselor, use your gift to comfort and exhort. If you are someone who gives, do it simply and generously. If you are in a position of leadership, lead with diligence and zeal. If you are one who does acts of mercy, do them cheerfully. Okay? We all have different gifts, abilities, roles. Okay? I know I don't have the same gifting. Sorry, Uncle Manny, I hate to keep using you as an example, but it's the most obvious one. Uncle Manny has such a gift for freely sharing the good news and just connecting with human beings. And he has this ability to share there and connect with people and to invite people and to continue to study with people. And he does this cheerfully. And he has such an ability, and he's been blessed with this gift. It's like this is the lot that God gave him, using his personality, his talents, his abilities, his heart. All right? I am socially awkward. I am socially inept at times. I don't know exactly how to connect with people, or I say the wrong thing, and I have good intentions, but things just don't come out, and maybe it's safer for me to study and share with you guys here on a Saturday. Our gifting, our abilities, it's different from one another. But if I started to covet what Uncle Manny does, and I say, I want to do what he does, like, it's good, be inspired by other people. Inspiration is good, but when you start to covet the gifts given to somebody else, and then you try to do it in your own strength, and God hasn't blessed you with that gift or ability, anybody could fake it, okay? But the fruit won't be real. Who likes seedless fruit? It's easier to eat, but there's not much life in it, okay? Your spiritual walk should be a fruitful walk, real and genuine and true. And we do that by humbly accepting what God has entrusted to our care, what God has anointed or blessed us with, all right? Instead of trying to take somebody else's tools and using them for your purposes, those tools weren't meant for your purposes. They were meant for that person's purposes. God gave me my own set of tools, gave Uncle Manny his own set of tools, and we use them in the area that he gave us to look over. That's where we work it out. We work out our salvation where God puts us. We don't think the grass is greener on the other side, so let me abandon this post that God has me in because I want to be over there with those people. I want to be over there, I want to be seen, I want to be visible, I want my fruit to shine. I get to talk to you guys here on Saturdays, on Shabbat. I don't get any glory of numbers. I don't get any, there's no evidence to what I'm sharing. I just share what I study. I'm glad that I have this opportunity that we get to sit and do this all together. But my heart for the longest time was like, Uncle Manny, I want to go, I want to reach as many people as I can. And God said, no, Tim, you just shut up and sit down, you study. Stop talking because you're making it worse. And as a ministry, Connections, what we used to do, we used to care so much about the people that came in. We wanted to make sure that they felt so welcome that we ended up compromising the way that we worshipped. While our heart was genuinely loving God, we still cared too much about what people thought and how we might be perceived. And we wanted them to come back, so we gave them what they wanted. Great song service, excellent food, happy teaching. Since I took over, it hasn't been so happy, the teaching. Joyful. Right? It's not this lighthearted, make you feel good. I know a lot of the time I make you feel bad. That's not me making you feel bad. That's the truth making you feel bad. But I'm just sharing that truth. we don't water it down, right? Justin, you had something?
I like it.
You like it, yeah.
They're
Good.
We're like the supplier of the message, and we're just the agents. Whatever you share with us, we share it with other people.
Praises. Yeah, let's keep sharing, and that's it. That's what we're meant to do. Just share, all right?
Speaking of this verse, it just reminded me of the parable about like the three servants about the master who gives them each lost and two of them double the money and one of them just hides it, and you know the servant or the master comes back and he's like, wow, like talks to the first two servants, well done, my good and faithful servants, you know, you use this well, I'll give you more to work with, and then he goes to the third one and he's like, well, what do you do with what I gave you, right? So it speaks to like using the gifts that God gives you, right? Like, I feel like if we're able to maximize, not maximize maybe, but to use them well and for His kingdom purposes, then when God feels like you're ready, then He can give you more to work with, more responsibilities. But if you're not able to maintain it and use it to its best ability, then God won't trust you with it, right? So to use the gifts that He's provided for you and use that as a blessing towards others, it's like, to be able to do that, that's super important. And then if you don't use it for His purposes, then it's kind of selfish, right?
That's right.
Just keeping it for yourself.
Is that why you're in business?
That's all your business.
To piggyback on what he's saying, I think it's also important for us to realize God gave us a cycle, a timeline, a season. Like when you look at, God said to look at creation, it reveals who He is. When we look at creation, we see the different phases in which growth happens. Are we in the seedling phase? Are we in the sprouting phase? Are we in the flowering phase? Are we in the fruit phase?
Yeah.
And just to say what Ethan was talking about, optimizing,
Yeah.
doing the best, that's the fruit bearing season. How much seed are we going to bear fruit with? Or are we going to be a rotted fruit that has no seed? Because once we know where we are in our season of life with the Lord, as we're journeying, as we're growing, we can optimize our seed so that when we come out of that phase, maybe to me, I liken the seed-bearing flowering season as like you're visible to people, you're able to talk and connect and engage. And then when we start waning and moving into the fall season where you don't have much fruit, flower, whatever, that's a gauge of how much seed you've actually sown. And I think for us to really optimize, like youth is the best time. And Tim and I talked about how we felt like we squandered our youth. But then we realized, wait, Abraham was 70 years old when he felt called. So God can do anything with nothing, you know, with withered, dry bones, if we're willing, if we're willing to be used.
Yeah, like, and remember, before a seed grows, it dies. It's crushed, right? That dying to ourselves needs to happen before God allows that fruit of His to be grown through your life. And remember, seeds, the tree of life, I love this tree of life. You know, it has not just one type of fruit, 12 different fruits, all right? And different things sprout up at different times, all right? And it's for a different season, a different time and purpose, but maturing is a thing. Staying connected, allowing Him to nourish you, allowing His Spirit to flow through you, and then that, my friends, that's how we grow. But a prideful branch cannot hang on. The prideful branch gets cut down, all right? When you've been humbled, you get grafted in, and you get opportunities. So let's continue. Pride and humility. Pride and humility are the two things. Okay, pride, it's like death. And humility, we find healing and restoration. Okay? Pride and humility. Let's look at this quickly. Pride selfishly sets itself, its wisdoms, its gifts, its experience, its potential above everyone else. Look at me, look what I can do. You know, little kids are always like, hey, Mom, Dad, look what I can do. And they start developing this sense of confidence. But sometimes that confidence ends up becoming pride. It's my identity. This is who I am. People praise me for this one, so that's who I am. And you keep trying to be that so that you get the affirmation. God doesn't care about those things. All right? He gives you what He gives you. He's the giver of life. He's the giver of gifts. All right? He sustains you for His purposes. So it's not look at me, look at me. You keep doing the good works, and everybody will see the good works you do and praise your Father in heaven. If you're trying to strive for man's applause, Look at how I'm obeying God. Look at me, that's like the Pharisees. We're obeying God's law. We're keeping it perfectly. Who are you? You people can't even keep up and do what we do. We know God's law, and we live it out. And that's pride. Elevating themselves above everyone else because of everything they've been given. Pride focuses on its own strengths and minimizes its own weaknesses, while at the same time magnifying others' weaknesses and downplaying their strengths. I hate those types of people. Sorry. Philippians 2 verse 3 says, "Do nothing out of rivalry or vanity, but in humility regard each other as better than yourselves." Submitting to one another. Supporting one another. Encouraging one another. Don't think of yourself as better than anybody else. Oh, I used to be a sinner, but God saved me. Now look at me. I'm such a good believer. I'm such a good Christian, and I'm better than all you suckers that haven't been forgiven yet. Sense the mockery and that tone. That's pride. And the enemy wants to get you, oh, look at how transformed you are. But the words coming out of your mouth are prideful and arrogant. Where's the real transformation? Man looks at the outward appearance of things, but God looks at the heart. Question, how do we worship? And we mentioned earlier what we did as a ministry with Connections for a long time. And it was good, it was fun. Yeah, we had a lot of people. A lot of people, and we think the more the merrier, how successful it is, there are a lot of people. Where are they now? Are we defined by how many people show up? Do we serve God just because there are more people watching us? Serve Him? No. Make me a servant, humble and meek. Lord, let me lift up those who are weak, and may the prayer of my heart always be, make me a servant, make me a servant, make me a servant. Today, that's why I say let that be your prayer song, like every day. It gets us back on the right focus, helps us keep our eyes on the target. But how do we worship? Is it to be seen by others? Are we worshiping God the way He wants to be worshipped? Or do we come up with our own ideas to make it more fun and not so boring, more relevant? For your homework, I want you to go home, read Hosea. Start reading Hosea. Okay? One of the prophets. Just start reading Hosea. Hosea, they say that he was, Jehovah told him, go and find a woman who's like whoring. Go find a prostitute and marry her. Like some translations say, go find a prostitute and marry her. But that's a poor translation. It's not her occupation. It's what she does. Go find an unfaithful woman and marry her. Okay? And Jehovah is using this idea of marriage to communicate His relationship with Israel. Alright? When you look at Hosea and you're reading through it and you read about Israel, let's be clear. He's not talking about the whole nation of Israel. He's talking more about the northern kingdom. Remember, there was a split. The 10 tribes of the northern kingdom, they thought that they were still worshiping Jehovah. They thought they belonged to God. They were the redeemed people, right? Jehovah took them out of Egypt. Yes, that's true. But over generations, they become a whoring nation. Their worship was with false gods. So that is adultery. They were unfaithful toward Jehovah. They had syncretized their worship as they started to blend with other peoples, pagan practices, entering into their worship of Jehovah. So when you see Israel, that's who it's talking about, the northern kingdom, as opposed to Judah, the southern kingdom. Right? That's where we get the Jews from. Yeshua was a Jew from the tribe of Judah. All right? It's like a warning to learn from the mistakes of her sister, Israel. Jeremiah 3:8. There's a warning there to learn from the mistakes of her sister, Israel. I want you to go and read Hosea and start asking God to reveal some things to you. The whoring wife represents that Israel, the northern kingdom. Doing things their own way, worshiping God in their own way. Yeah, you guys know. I did it my way. What a beautiful song. Hey, it sounds nice, but that's like the devil's anthem. It's hard. I like singing this song. It sounds really cool. You know, you do karaoke. That's the song, dude. Yeah.
This song is very significant for me. The first time I sang on karaoke, I sang this song. It was we were having a retreat up north for a winter retreat. Fred, I had a microphone, I was singing it my way. Our house was burning.
January 2006.
January 2006. That's why I don't sing this song.
The house was literally burning.
It was literally burning. Yeah, it's burning. Before you were born.
You can't make that up. We have a picture of you holding the mic. Yeah, man. That's what happens. I'm glad that Yehovah is using that story to be used, that we could share that, and then your whole kingdom, your house, it burns while you're declaring the devil's anthem.
And can I also share one experience last week? Right after our first gathering, I was invited to that anniversary of the husband. And so she said, it was at the Prestige nightclub. And so she's asked me, can you sing a song for me? I said, no. But our class was kind of saying, I did it my way. Then I was saying, no way. But then I ended up sharing one way.
One way.
And it was amazing because you had an opportunity to tell others. So,
Yeah. That's good. That's good. One way. Yeshua. Yeah. That's good. Don't wait to worship God until you get to the promised land. Who is this? Mark Batterson. Don't wait to worship God until you get to the promised land. You've got to worship along the way. The question is, how are you worshiping Him? Are you worshiping Him and living in such a way that He had commanded you to live? Or are you doing it your own way? Doing it our own way, that's pride. Pride blinds us that we cannot see clearly. Humility clears our eyes. Father, give us eyes to see and ears to hear and hearts that are receptive to receive all that you have for us. Why does pride blind us? It creates a false sense of perfection. It makes us overly confident in our own wisdom. Pride resists correction. It creates a know-it-all mentality, closing us off to constructive feedback, like Errol was saying about accountability. Pride justifies negative behavior. It lends to deflecting blame or stubbornly trying to win arguments instead of understanding the truth. Whew. You ever have a disagreement with a partner? Someone close to you? Yeah. You don't care about the truth anymore. You just don't want to be wrong and you have to be right. Pride stifles growth. We cannot learn from our mistakes if we refuse to admit they happened. How does humility clear us? Humility keeps us teachable. It reminds us that we don't have all the answers and that every experience is an opportunity to learn. I love that. Right? Humility builds connections. It lowers defensive walls, allowing for genuine relationships and empathy. Humility promotes wisdom. Instead of being wise in your own eyes, Humility promotes true wisdom. It clears the mental clutter of self-promotion and ego, helping us see situations and people as they truly are. Just taking it plainly as it is. Humility brings peace. It replaces the constant anxiety of having to prove ourselves with a calm willingness to listen, adapt, and grow. I want you to apply all this humility to God's law and how we are to receive His commands for living. It will call you out on certain things. Are you responding with pride or humility? Oh, I do that, but God's not really serious about that. Yeshua paid it all anyway. I'm under grace now, so I try to keep everything else, but that one... How you live is your worship to God. It's not just coming to church service and worshiping there. It's not just your 10 minutes devotion in the morning, or your bedtime prayers, or praying before mealtime, or when you get in the car. Your worship is your life, and how you live it, and all the choices that you make. Are you honoring God in everything? When we realize our ability to keep covenant with God is a result of His mercy, it results in humility, coupled with a sense of security. His faithfulness enables our faithfulness. Sometimes we think it's too hard to follow God. How can I remain faithful to Him? All right? Sometimes we look at humility and look at that as some sort of inferiority and insecurity. When you stop elevating yourself to take God's place, when you stop trying to be in control of everything and acknowledge that He is truly in control, and you trust Him because He's in control, that should offer you a sense of safety and security. All right? You're not relying on yourself anymore. You're relying on Him. Believing in God is trusting in God, not trusting in yourself. The only choice you have to make is, am I going to trust God? Am I going to believe in Him? To believe Him is to trust and obey. Trusting isn't just this, oh, I trust you, God, hoping that maybe something will happen. No. Trust is, I do trust you, and I'm going to live out the way that you commanded me to live. There's action. Faith without works is dead. What is your faith if it's just words and wishful thinking? Are you living it out? Are you worshiping Him? It's a covenant thing, okay? All His promises. You can stand on His promises because He is faithful. God, help us to be faithful. Almost there at the end, guys. 2 Chronicles 7, verse 14. I love this passage. Especially when we hit COVID. Man, praying for people because hearts were being exposed. There were a lot of nasty attitudes. Some people did the right thing because they were told, do the right thing. Get the injection. Other people chose not to get the injection, right? And people judged them for it. And families were torn apart, right? Because, oh, why didn't you get the vaccine? You're supposed to do this, right? It was such a horrible thing. And it wasn't about the vaccines. It was the condition of our hearts, man. People thinking they were better than the other party because they had a different way of looking at things. Political parties, the same thing. Oh, I'm a liberal, I'm a conservative, and they fight and they can't get along anymore, but they think, well, we're better than you are because that's what you believe, this is what I believe. What you believe, you end up living out from what you believe. If you took the jab out of fear, then you know it's fear that motivated you to take that jab. If you didn't take the jab because you believed something else, you did that out of your own conviction. And I'm not here to say one is right over the other. That's not for me to say. But know within your heart, are you operating out of fear or faith? Faith in God and His promises, or fear because of what the world might do to you or take away from you? Fear God and God alone. He's the one who gives life. He's the one that takes it away. He gives you everything you need for life and living, and He can take it away. He can give you an anointing so that you are relevant for His kingdom purposes. And when you're not falling in line, He could take that away. He did it with King Saul. He did it with the disobedient Israel. But He doesn't give up on you. Things may come and things may go. When we are unfaithful, He is faithful still to fulfill His promises. If my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray, and seek my face, and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven, and will forgive their sin, and will heal their land. Historically, this was a covenant promise given by God to King Solomon, David's son, regarding the nation of ancient Israel. You see, there's a call to action. God asks His people to adopt a posture of humility, actively pray, seek His presence, and turn away from destructive, sinful habits. There is action, an expectation, there is a standard. And there's also a promise. If these conditions are met, God promises to hear the prayers, forgive the sins, and bring healing. Although this was a covenant promise given by God to King Solomon, this is how God operates. He expects something of us, to live out our faith, to walk out our salvation. And He hears your prayers. You have been forgiven. You have been redeemed. And He will bring healing. Are there areas of your life where you still hang on with stubborn pride? Where you need healing for your soul? It's up to you to humble yourself. Don't wait for God to bring down your pride. By then, it may be too late. If you want to learn what a life worshiping God, pleasing God looks like, I want you to read Proverbs 16. So you have the book of Hosea, you have Proverbs 16. You know, Shabbat, it's longer because sunset is so late in the summer, right? You've got all Shabbat to study. Come on. Proverbs 16. Humility, righteousness, honesty, and faithfulness. That kind of nutshell is what it looks like to please God and live a life of worship. Okay? But I want you to go through and read the passages. Once again, do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear Jehovah and turn away from evil. It will be healing to your body and refreshment to your bones. I love that. So a reminder for today, walk in humility and trust God's grace. He strengthens, guides, and lifts those who depend on Him. Do you depend on God? Stop depending on yourself, man. You keep falling short. But when you depend on God, overflow. His grace is amazing. And it never runs out. But you can stop the flow. Did you know that? You can stop the flow of God's grace towards you when you rebel against Him. Did you know that? He works with your choices. You either choose to align with Him or you choose your own path. Friends, just align with Him. It's better for you. That's a no-brainer, yeah? Any last words? Comments? Questions? May the grace of our Lord Yeshua and the shalom of Yehovah our Father be with us all. Amen.
Before you go, I just want to give a 2-minute report. It's on your messenger.
Oh.
Now, in the past, when we would respond to disasters, especially in the Philippines, we would simply send funds to Red Cross or this or that. We have been privileged from for this earthquake that happened in Mindanao, the 7.8 magnitude, that we had somebody there in Jensan, the epicenter of the earthquake. His name is Kelton, and his wife, Lucy Tangan. They're ministers of a gospel church whom we had been assisting years back. We first bought them a motorcycle so that he could minister to the youth up in the mountains. And, you know, when someone gets sick and, you know, we send some funds. This time, okay, go to the very first one. We were able to send funds, and a day after the earthquake, they sent us pictures of the facade of their church, there are lots of them, that collapsed. And we first sent them, what's our first one? 40,000. They were able to supply food to meet the needs of 20 families in their community. We didn't know that the devastation was a lot more. And they had other communities they were reaching out. Especially, there was a, can you play this please? This is one of their fellow pastors. No sound?
No sound.
Okay. Anyway, she was thanking Connections family. You don't know where this small group of us reach. It's amazing when the Lord uses us. They will be distributing. They will be distributing a bunch of. We sent another 52,000 pesos the other day. Was it the other day, Manny? And they immediately bought a lot more food, and they will be delivering it 9 hours away to a Manobo tribe. They could not get home. Kelton was 200 kilometers away from his home when this happened, because all the roads, the access roads, were like this. This is just one of them. And they were sleeping outdoors. Water, sardines, rice, noodles, 3 basic things. Rice, sardines, noodles. Sugar, salt, and happy faces. I don't know whether they needed soap. They didn't have to, right? They needed food. Yeah. This is Kelton. These are his parents. And this is the house. They lost it completely. So I told him, I was chatting with him late last night, I said, you know, if some people need to repair their homes, you know, spend some of it. But he said, Kuya, they need food.
Yeah.
You know, they could always find shelter somewhere.
And I think Tito is still, because they're in the epicenter, even few days, I think until it's still shaking, it's still accepting.
They had
Yeah.
aftershocks of 6.8.
Yeah.
Aftershocks of 6. That's an earthquake by itself. You know, they had 5.5, 5.4, a lot of aftershocks. They've been very accountable. They send the receipts. You know, early on we told them our request only is that if we send you money, send the receipts so we know we're accountable to you. This is not our funds. This is from him. So look at this. It's impossible to pass through them. Even they is the front of their church. This is the church of Kelton and Lucci. You know, it wasn't built to specs. There was no foundation and no rebar. So the whole block of cement fell. That's shifted. All the houses shifted. They can't even get in because the rest of the house will fall. Famous face. Anyway, I want to thank those of you who have contributed and will continue to contribute. You know, I'm active in social media. I have so many groups: high school, college, medical school, university groups, alumni groups, and I kind of got into the habit of sharing what we do here, and a lot of them were very appreciative of, hoping that they could instill some idea for them to do the same. But there was, unfortunately, there was one group of friends. I did not put the whole history of why we were doing this. I just kind of showed them the picture of the roads and the food that we were given. And I caught a side conversation the two of them had. Said, "Why is Rolly posting this?" And one of them said, "No, I think it's pride." And that hurt, you know. And this gets into our lesson, you know. We cannot have pride, we have to be humble. Some said that what your right hand does, don't let the left hand do. But because we're accountable to you, our funds that you've given, I'm reporting to you. And we're not boasting about it. We're all one family here. We have to know what's happening.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you all. Let's continue to pray for those people. Some areas will not have electricity for a month. Many of them have lost their homes, their sources of income. The coconuts that they will use for copra 3 months from now are all flattened out. So I've reached out to our friends. I personally reached out to other friends, and I told them, guys, we're raising funds. If you have your free will offerings and even your tithes, send it through Uncle Manny, and we will let you know where it goes. You may give it to your church, your denomination, there's an ADRA or other organizations. It's good. You also get the receipt with us, but there, you won't know when the money gets there or whether it will get there at all because the needs are immediate. We responded 13 years ago to Typhoon Yolanda. 1 week after Yolanda hit, we sent our Connections Philippines team to survey the area where we could help. All the TV exposures and reports were from Tacloban in Leyte, in the central area. So all the aid was going there. And they said, Kuya Rolly, where will we go? I said, go to places that there is no TV crew. You know where they ended up? They went up to the uppermost tip of Cebu, Daan Bantayan. It's an island. They said, what happened here is worse than they're showing on TV. I said, perfect. That's great. Let's help them. And we decided to build some houses. Some of them were living in pigsty, you know, pigs live. So we sent 2 people. We bought them a motorbike, to go to that place. They went to the barangay captain and said, where could we do this? He says, go to this area here. I won in that area, they voted for me. So I was chatting with him, and I said, tell him to go to the place where he didn't get elected, so he could get more votes. And said, yeah, that's a great idea. So that's where we built. We built a total of, I think altogether 25 homes. After the first 15 homes, Manny, Nancy, myself, we went there, teamed up. We had a turnover ceremony, sort of, and we turned over the houses to them. I had one of them visit the place 3 years ago. Houses are still standing. It's a one-room house, concrete flooring, marine plywood, standard for the walls, the galvanized roofs, sheets, and I had them numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, so that if the typhoon blows, hey, that's my sheet. Put it back. No, the place is still standing. And we had one requirement of them, to keep the place clean and orderly, because the Lord who gave them is a God of order. They had flowers planted. This was a hillside. You know? So I'm just relating this to you. We seldom get to share this with you. Akaman and I gets to get all the reports, you know. But I think the Lord will continue to use us. Let's pray for these people that they too through. Oh, by the way, before I forget, this is what happens when I start talking. One of our ministry partners recently is based in San Jose del Monte, Bulacan. It's a ministry who are Torah and Shabbat observant. There are also a couple pastors. They happen to have the surname Corpus also, but it's a Z, not S. Bebet and Hasmin Corpus. You know, I was listening to their service online last night. The ambassador of Papua New Guinea to the Philippines requested to spend the Sabbath services with them. They learned about them from online and saw their posts. So this ambassador has been assigned only 6 months in the Philippines. And they messaged Bebek and said, we want to visit you. Papua New Guinea is largely SDAs. The Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea is a Seventh-day Adventist. And a lot of their citizens are Adventists. But this ambassador was not an Adventist. He considered himself a Christian, but he got interested and he was looking for a Torah and Shabbat observant congregation. So I was there, I listened to it. The ambassador, his wife, and the daughter, 2 daughters. And he was asked to speak. And they said, we got to know you about this, your services, and we want to come back. So I had the sense that they were they're very familiar with Shabbat, and they found a Torah observant congregation, not from the Adventists, but from this ministry. Let's pray for the great Elohim ministry of Bebet and Hasmin Corpus. So it happened that the ministries in the Philippines are usually husband and wife. No, it's like Tim and Beth, you know, they're leading out as a couple. So our our arms, right, reaches to many places. And I want to thank you all, and God bless you as we bless others, okay? Precious.